I think that's the main.
Well, you get to.
They just lost.
Already, and one potentially according to.
Yeah, they've lost two full-time people.
Oh, they did.
They lost two full-time people. And they people went to Purdue, but they got to somewhere else. So we bought three full-time people. So they can hire people.
What are ethics?
They're being-
I was starting worrying about
I actually wrote it down to say.
Now I feel though, because he said it, right?
Oh, that's my husband.
I don't speak English.
We're hiring everyone to find out how to do training, and then they go. So it's.
And the two people that they had.
And.
Living here, they've already been hired somewhere. So we lost that.
So we pushed it out.
But they weren't considered for background. I don't know how they come from. Because they're from the college.
They're from the college.
They're from the college. They live here. And they, I think we brought good work for them, but they also, leaving. So I don't know how they, I don't think those are fit in.
No, it's just completely.
No.
They're three full-time people.
Yeah. They're full-time.
They're ready from there. So we did it one, and then it's just asking for a reboot. I don't know how they.
They're not-
Training. So.
The deal people come in.
And that running is recording, and that will record it, but you can't, it should be uploaded to YouTube later. There is a way to go live from there, but I don't know how to. So I can't do that. And I'm gonna see if she can, that's just without the display. So I gotta find out,
We don't go to, I was thinking a guy who eventually did. Before I had. Whether you were on the force or not.
Came up with all the data until probably.
Patricia.
Everything is going in the morning.
Ask the
Yeah. Yeah, of course you are later. He said.
Taking the heat for that.
Too late.
Wait till you buy a Tylenol.
What's that?
Wait till you have to buy Tylenol, you're not sending me the bill for that.
Well, we'll see. Is this being recorded yet, Dave?
Are we back on line?
no, it's doing nothing. So-
Hey, my favorite girl.
Yeah. What happens? Yeah.
They just don't.
It's not so
How
safe.
are you? It's not the same.
I'm working.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. I don't work every day, but I work. Yeah. I went to work with,
It's been a long
time.
Hi, Sally. I'm Sue. Nice to meet you. Early this was and we all- I remember my first.
When there's work, they keep me to go to work. When there's no work, we didn't retire college.
You still can.
Right, right.
No, it's all right. Sue's gonna sit there. It was.
Because we started here,
Well, I don't know.
The scan was, I don't know if that's the right one. It's like, you go on, they want to write me in. I know.
Right in.
Tuesdays, we're great already.
file was with law enforcement too, so. Down in town, everybody could hear.
Everybody could hear it.
Yeah.
My great uncle was from.
Where? Just,
His mother.
To the farm, the nursery, she goes.
Oh, just the weekends for a couple of weeks.
And he was.
Plus I get to just.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm having many baskets.
I know.
They do so well to see them all. It's so happy.
So I just want to sit here, right? So. I couldn't sit there. You never run into anything like it. Oh, so I'll be afraid of somebody. You got a small boy. I do that. I did that, but yeah, you got pleasure. No, we could write you in. Write me in. I'm not doing any work. I'm not going. Sign my paper, please. Sign my paper, please.
I want you in.
Write me in. I should have no papers. Yeah, no need, man. I probably got stuck on a school board for 27 years. So write it. Hey, you got written in. I'm like. What?
I'm just finding out who I should write in.
Oh, yeah, look. Yeah, I'll write it down.
Okay, so, you know, I'm sitting here now.
Budget, so much for them, it's like, telling you what. But just said the budget, I'm so glad they were gonna put the.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it.
Cheers.
The house has Zoom running on it, 105, and you know, all that's going on out back by the window, it's just, that's sure.
Oh, my God. Get to hear like the house was.
Yeah.
$150,000.
So,
That's not impressive.
yeah,
Really, did you see the taxes were 35? I know.
Yeah.
One of the boys got their little postage stamp, piece of land and stuck a house on it,
Yeah.
you know, back in the day.
Well, I remember the other day.
Our taxes were $300.
$300
a year. I know, ours wasn't so wonderful.
For the first wind and ice.
I saw you.
It's not, I did, yeah.
Yeah, well, try.
And I knew,
I don't know, it was in there, it's gonna kind of looking for a shirt on my pop or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
No. Skin was getting done.
So the donkey.
I have just as long as that. It was like, yeah.
That was like your.
Yeah, I've seen any dogs. Yeah, it's done. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's, he said that, I'm looking for a shirt for my pops. Oh, God. Oh,
Came around.
Yeah. See?
Brand new. Like the top 10 seats where you have to take us to do.
Don't go.
It's been a while since I've been here. It made us leave the board, it was fun. Oh, you think, don't make any weird faces at me.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Nobody
your
here.
patience, we're having some technical difficulties, so hopefully we'll figure it out here.
Excuse me. one
Okay.
second.
I don't know why, about what?
Liz, do you want to come sit up here?
Am I supposed to say anything?
You do not have to. I just thought it would be.
It's a
easier
shorter,
if you went there.
Liz, it's a shorter
We can come
walk.
and shake together.
It's a shorter walk.
Thank you.
I'm equalized.
I'm gonna be.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Paper. So anyway, I was.
Just know what we have going on.
Yeah, I did. I think you have to.
Oh, all right.
Is that something right?
Oh, 2:30 left, like 2:30 left. 2 hour walk.
Oh, why?
Two hour day, bro. That's I live, yeah. No, I'm not doing that. I don't like kids, I don't like people.
Oh, he's trying to.
You already right. It's awful.
Yeah, that's fine.
People
I was picking up a kid, I said, "Okay, you think you got enough?" I control the rest.
And that one was.
And I'm almost an old lady, so you're gonna suck it up.
They go to the.
Yeah, what I'm saying to
And the other thing is, when he sees this someday, that ain't it. Cause I had a break on myself, so I rarely. Because I think kids learn how to. Oh, he's screaming hysterical.
She's the Bible.
So we passed, I was coming here and he was.
But what she made?
So I said.
One of those.
I'll take that.
That beats what you get. I said, that beats what he gets. But
Oh, you have grilled cheese out of it.
a nice county.
No.
Oh, so you went, okay, get it.
Yeah.
It's
I
a.
got that right.
And I'm, you know, like.
But just three. Just three of those,
No.
It's just.
two.
No, Dave's not running for reelection.
So there is no.
So if you wanted to be best, you express yourself.
Guy, oh, yeah, she didn't say it.
So we do these, right?
Somebody.
Bitchy and.
They're in the same cell.
I can't do that. I don't want I'm just saying, maybe you
And then you can make your dress then. It's a 4-year.
God, is it, I ain't gonna live 4 years. What are you talking about?
For a year, 4 meetings a year.
Oh, where is that?
For 3 years, so you'll be fine for.
I'll be horrible, maybe, yeah.
I think you did. Well, that's why there's.
Careful, wish, way wish. Where the hell is it?
I don't know, we have to take care of our own, so we know what it's like.
Hmm?
We have to take care of our own.
What does that mean? Oh, yeah, you take care.
We're trying to get this going, we're gonna go on a shop.
Yes.
And he's going.
He's really nervous.
That was, right.
After Easter.
Did they like you?
Just me. Politics is.
That's not
But
really.
yeah, but she's been there.
Yeah, they want to do bigger. Somebody down.
It's not like you get the same, right? Right. Yeah, yeah. He said that his duty things help everything.
Start making those.
My friend Ken, so she's a tennis woman, his wife has to do some group work.
So just clean that.
No.
But like if you get the little lady. Well, I think they get hard. Great idea.
I go for some tape. Did you try that? I could go. 43 minutes. He was really. Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, I was thinking, I car and then I heard it. It's a huge thing.
One of the nights he goes, there's been after.
That's my voice. She was saying, "Oh,
And he's still.
this girl did it."
Yeah.
My son.
I don't. Yeah. Yeah, you have passwords for that. That's the only thing I can sort of. I don't, I need to password.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm that.
Yeah, my son.
Yeah. It's so interesting now. You know, it's a big. Mrs. Catholic.
I'm nature. Okay, I got that. You know, I probably don't count the passwords. And
Learning the difference.
I just added. And also. Extend my.
It's great. Have you talked to Paul?
Because you're not gonna be able to.
Yes.
That's what I think.
I don't know, she really listened.
And plus now I'm starting Friday.
So she turned out there's some very expensive, so yeah, all right, sure.
Yep. Yep.
The pieces that we buy.
So,
Yeah.
it's the insurance. She still does.
We use a kind of like. Gary.
Yeah, she did.
I was like. But you didn't.
She should. Keep the obsess. That's how you know, being a cancer survivor. She's
Almost ready to go.
I'm trying to get one or the other one.
Right.
I could go pull a little Osmond.
Oh, okay.
That's not finished.
I would think that is.
She's used that girl on Mondays.
All right.
I just.
I don't write it down.
Yeah. It's not, let it be. Stop growing social security.
Okay, about 50 hours.
You know, Boston's got wonderful one.
I do.
A lot of people have lost money.
That's her state office.
I have no pen.
Why? Oh, I know.
You don't see it, she's big,
One of the answers to the voting.
Do you do anything for anything?
I know.
It's not that bad.
Sometimes you have to It's a very stressful like this. And I read it on.
Yeah.
I don't think so. That's all right. We're gonna be recorded and at least you know there's issue on.
60 bucks a square.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to. Yeah, okay, no, it's recording right now. All right, thank you very much. Okay, no problem. All right, my apologies for that. Good evening. Hi, sorry for that. We are not live tonight. It is, as you can see, the poor machine out back is trying to repair itself. We are recording on Zoom. So once it's recorded on Zoom, tomorrow Lindsay will be able to upload it to the YouTube channel. So it'll be it won't be in the live folder. It'll be in the videos folder when you go on if you want to view it from there. So if anyone's looking for it and they ask where, and I'm sure Lindsay will post a link to it on the page and hopefully the Facebook page. So welcome to Candidate Night 2025. Tonight we will be hearing from candidates running for vacancies on, I'm listing them even if some of them aren't here, school board, budget committee, and select board. Your opportunity to vote for the candidate of your choosing will be at the general election in June. Tonight's forum will be conducted in a respectful, courteous, and professional manner. Tonight's forum is not a debate. It's an opportunity to hear opinions, ideas, thoughts, and goals and experiences of those running for office. The questions have been garnered from previous candidate nights and with input and questions submitted by the community. And I was pretty impressed. We got a big spreadsheet with all the questions that were sent to me. And so this is a compilation. There was way more questions asked than what's on the sheet. So, and a lot of them were in the similar flavor. So I did my best to put them together to the candidates, but I was really pleased to see so many people participate in the survey for asking questions. So it's the moderator's intent to present questions relevant to our town in a broad, open-ended approach. The moderator will be the deciding factor in matters of conduct and the pertinence of questions. Questions were given to the candidates in advance of this evening. For those in attendance, if time allows, questions will be allowed. Questions or comments deemed by the moderator to be unprofessional, disrespectful, discourteous, rude, or irrelevant will not be allowed. Persons exhibiting unprofessional behavior, disrespect, discourteous, or disruptive, or rude behavior will be given a warning and will be required to leave. Candidates will be grouped by office they are running for. We don't have anyone running for school board unless there's someone out there running that is doing write-in that wants to be here. Second, we have budget committee, and then third, we select board candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the questions asked. Each candidate per group will receive the same questions. Each candidate will address the moderator when responding. Once all questions have been responded to, the moderator will ask for questions from those present in the audience. Members of the audience will present their questions to the moderator, not the candidates. Candidates will not be allowed to question one another. The moderator will present the question to the candidate, ask questions to be or ask the question to be rephrased, or refuse the question altogether if deemed inappropriate. In the interest of time, the moderator may limit time allotted for public questions. Once all questioning is completed, each candidate will be given 3 minutes to make a closing statement. Closing statements will be factual, polite, and professional. Closing statements will not be directed at other candidates, individuals, or public officials. And so with that, we have Sue Briggs, who is running for budget committee. Thank you for being here, Sue.
You're welcome.
So we're going to start off with, if you want to introduce yourself and give us 2 minutes on that.
My name is Sue Briggs. I live off South Waterboro Road on Briggs Way, normally called South Waterboro Road on my deeds. I've lived in town for 43 years. I raised 2 children. I was previously employed as a fire protection and plumbing engineer, project manager, department head, before I had to retire due to illness. And it's now that I'm fully retired, as I was about 12 years ago, I just felt it was necessary to participate in the town government, to give back some of my time, to volunteer for other things. I do various other things. I'm also treasurer of the Goodwins Mill Cemetery. So that being said, I've always worked with numbers and always worked with paperwork and that sort of thing. And I've enjoyed being on the budget committee. It was definitely a learning curve. It's different than anything I've ever done. But we have a good committee.
Yeah.
So
Excellent. Thank you. So first question,
is, if you were to be elected, what goals or agenda do you have for the time on budget committee?
I don't know that I have an agenda or a goal. The budget committee is responsible to review all the items that have already been reviewed and discussed and put in front of us by the select board. So really, we are the oversight for, at least how I look at it, is we're the oversight for what the select board has put together for a budget. And again, the budget is just, I don't want to call it a wish list, because it's not, it's more than a wish list.
Mm.
But it is not cut in stone until the townspeople vote on it at the town meeting. If anything, my agenda is to try and get more people to attend town meeting so
I
that
like that
they
one.
can understand why the town needs the amount of money that they need for certain things.
Excellent, thank you. All right, so do you think the town budget is too large, just right, or too small, and why? That's a hard one.
I think at this point, given the economy,
Mm.
we are just right. We had to increase. Everything has gone up. Salaries have gone up, and we're a big factor, I think. Things like the roads. That had the potential to go up. The select board came back and reduced it, and I think they did the right thing. So I think that respect, to not to kind of pick and choose, but the road budget, I think, is at the right place. Fire department, likewise, their budget seemed to increase a lot more than any of the other departments' budgets. And I attended the fire department budget meeting several weeks ago. And now I understand, and there will be 2 warrant articles, one for a larger budget, one for a little bit smaller budget with less employees. So, I think we are in a good place for the town budget. We also have other budgets to consider when all this comes together, the county, the schools. But, I think overall, our budget has tried to hold the line.
Thank
So-
you. So the next question is, residential property taxes are the primary source of income for our town. Are there other sources of revenue that could be sought to lessen the burden on residential property taxes?
That is something that the budget committee really doesn't get into.
Mhm.
As a taxpayer and property owner, I think there's multiple ways the town could market themselves. Bunganuck Park, which is gonna be an investment, I think could market itself and perhaps provide a better source of income than it does now. As far as other sources and resources, it's a tricky one. We're a small town without many benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 4, in your opinion, does having a Zoom policy increase participation, and is it a valuable resource for keeping boards and committees working on town business? If yes, why? If no, why?
Well, right now, tonight, we're using Zoom.
We got lucky, I know.
I think that's the perfect example that, Zoom is important. One thing that the budget committee did decide, and I voted for it, was that we not allow Zoom for a budget member who could not attend a meeting. The primary reason for not attending the 10 meetings that we have, 8 to 10 meetings that we have every year, would be something like a sick child, an illness, a family emergency. You shouldn't have to be sitting at home with a monitor if you have a sick child, a family emergency, or you're not feeling well. We have 6 people on the budget committee. And we have a quorum, and there's always the opportunity to revisit an item that perhaps you weren't able to be there. I was sick one night, I couldn't attend. But I think it was for salaries. I think it was for salaries, and, I mean, we revisited that at some point, so. I don't think my not being here made a big difference, enough to make me sit there while I didn't feel well, so.
Thank you. Number 5, how would you handle a situation where it appears that certain committee members are working together behind the scenes to push an agenda, and what steps would you take to ensure that all budget discussions are transparent, respectful, and focused on facts, not personalities or politics?
When I read this question, I thought to myself, has this ever happened? And I don't think it has. I mean, there's always a little bit of back and forth, whoever is available that you can reach at the time. If you have a question about the budget sheets that come out, what is this? What is that? You know, explain this to me. But I don't think that anybody's ever campaigned or, you know, tried to push their personal agenda. We're a committee. We work well together, I think.
Mm.
So.
Thank you. Number 6, how would you balance the need to keep taxes reasonable with the need to invest in maintaining and improve town assets?
I think there's another question that goes along with this for the CIP, for
Mhm.
the,
Do you want to do them kind of together or?
yeah, let's do those together.
So
Because I think it's important.
so number 9.
Yeah, for the.
So
capital
she wants to
improvement.
take this one, and question 9 is, do you support creating or strengthening a capital improvement plan, which is CIP, to guide long-term investment in town facilities and infrastructure? So you want to take those two together?
Let's take those two together. I
Okay.
think, you know, we all want to keep things reasonable. You bring home a paycheck, you have your social security, you know what your bills are. You work that budget out so that at the end of the day, you probably have some extra money. Hopefully. Maybe we won't have that next week, but today we have a little extra money and you put that aside. So basically the capital improvement plan or the town investing to maintain and improve certain things like the town hall or fire department or whatever it is. I think we have to look at it that way. And if there's any extra in what we budgeted for, which sometimes there is, we end up with reserve money that isn't spent. It's proposed, but it's not spent. As we take that, we start to set it aside and develop a capital improvement plan, which is like a wish list. And
So you
in
would
order-
support creating a CIP?
yeah, to create the CIP, so that we have sort of a guideline going forward. So say for instance, and I'm not saying that we did this, we had $50,000 left over at the end of the year, it was committed, but it didn't get spent. Well, what's on our wish list? Is there something on there that benefits the town on that capital improvement plan that maybe we should consider doing? Things like that, keep taxes reasonable without adding 50,000 to the next year's budget. I hope that makes sense.
Well,
But-
number 7 kind of, you build, I think number 7 here you can kind of keep rolling with that one. So number
Okay.
7 is, what is your philosophy on funding preventative maintenance versus deferred repairs to save money in the short term? So I think that goes along with the CIP
I think it does
and everything
too.
else you're talking. So go
And-
ahead and continue.
I'll tell you, I'm all for preventive maintenance. I drive a 12-year-old car. My previous car that I just gave to my son is 18 years old. It had almost 250,000 miles on it.
Wow.
And the only reason it did that was because I changed the oil and I rotated the tires and I checked the fan belt and I did the air filters. That preventative maintenance, the same thing that happens with town facilities, costs almost nothing compared to what it would cost to replace a building or one of the dumpsters up or whatever they're called up at the transfer station. And we've talked about this with the transfer station with keeping upkeep for those containers. How important that is and how much less it costs to do that preventive maintenance.
Yep.
So, and I don't know that the town currently has a list of preventive maintenance, but I think it would be a good idea to develop that within the CIP.
Excellent. And so number 8, in reviewing department budgets, how would you evaluate whether proposed expenditures are truly beneficial to the community?
We don't really get the nitty gritty. The nitty gritty happens with the select board as far as those proposed expenditures. A lot of times, I don't know how to answer that question, because really it's not a function of the budget committee. We have the ability to watch workshops, we have the ability to watch or go to a select board meeting. But,
I think it's whether like maybe they're thinking along the lines of, I mean, I'm snowballing here. Maybe like when we're told they need something for a department
yeah, I
type of
mean,
thing, how we
yeah, I
would
mean, if
know
it's an
whether it is or
increase,
isn't.
I guess, thinking about it, the budgets that we get include previous year's budgets.
Hmm.
So we have the ability to look at that budget from a year ago and say, wow, was that a big jump? Was it, $1,000? Was it a $10,000 jump?
Mhm.
Whatever it is it small or is it large? And then the large,
We were like, wait a second,
yeah,
flags.
then we would definitely flag
Yeah.
it and say, wait a minute, why are we increasing $10,000? And I think the same thing happened this year with roads and with fire department. They were very big increases over their last year's budgets. So that's where the budget committee
Mhm.
works.
Yeah.
On our meeting night to evaluate and figure out,
How they got there.
yeah, and Jeanette's been really good at that, into keeping us up to date with what the select board
Mhm.
talked about, so that, we don't have to attend every single meeting.
Yeah.
Every single night.
Excellent. Okay, question 10. How do you separate personal opinions or relationships from your duty to objectively review town's finances?
Well, as a taxpayer, I always have personal opinions. But at the end of the day, that department has worked to put together a budget.
Mm.
So we have to appreciate that. And again, did it increase? Did it decrease? Did it increase $10? Did it increase $1,000? Why? And can that be reduced?
Mm.
Is there some fluff in that maybe we're not seeing?
Mhm.
And so I try to be objective and just look at the numbers and not look at the people involved or the department involved or any of the politics involved,
Mhm.
and just look and see what that number is.
Thank you. All right, let's see the next one. Which one did I just do?
You're at 11.
11, okay, I'm like, did I cross off that one? Have you ever had to disagree publicly with people you typically align with, and how did you navigate that?
In my previous work life, you never know when there's going to be a disagreement. I worked a lot with contractors. I can remember one instance. The contractor that installed the plumbing for Gillette Stadium made a huge error. It ended up costing Gillette Stadium a lot of money. It flooded Gillette Stadium right before it opened. Not a lot of people know about this because it was Kraft kept it out of the news. But there were some disagreements there between Kraft, the whole Gillette maintenance and facilities crew, and the lawyers. And you just have to sit and listen. You have to keep your ears open. You can't get argumentative. You have to try and listen. Sometimes it's hard to try and listen, but at the end, everything got resolved. Nobody got killed. That was a pretty big one. But I can honestly say that the budget committee has never had any kind of disagreement that we would have a problem with, so.
We get past it, we
Yeah.
get there. All right, this is a good one. So number 12, how would you encourage more public understanding of and participation in the town budget process?
This is a good one
Mhm.
because having lived here for 43 years, I can remember when Saturday, whatever the date was, of town meeting was on our calendar. I had 2 little kids. It didn't matter. We dropped everything. We were at town meeting from the beginning to the end, and it lasted all day. Somewhere along the line, and I missed the memo, town meetings are Thursday nights from 6 to 8. Excuse me. 6 to 8 to determine millions of dollars that your taxpayers and your pocketbook are gonna cover. I don't think it's long enough. And I've spoken to a lot of people about it. They all seem to feel, well, you know, it's because we have kids and we can't spend a Saturday and we can't do this and we can't do that. Well, you know what, folks? Don't complain about your taxes. And it's the young kids, the ones with the taxes and the kids that they have to support and pay for sneakers that should be at these meetings. So if I had to lobby for anything, I would say we need to bring back town meetings on a Saturday. It needs to be an event. If it has to have food trucks and babysitters and balloon vendors, I don't care.
Yeah.
Get your butt to town meeting and vote.
Mm.
That's my campaign right there.
Be nice to
is-
see a full house.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's important. I dragged my kids there. They were
Mhm.
toddlers. They sat, they listened to. So,
Learn somewhere, right? So we have number 4, one of them got misnumbered. So
oh,
13, how do you define fairness in the budgeting process?
I don't think that fairness really comes in
Hmm,
to the
good.
budgeting process. I really don't. You know,
You
every
do the best you
department
can.
is very honest with what
Yep.
they need. I don't see anybody over budgeting
Hmm.
because they think that they might need more money down the road. If anything, I think they cut it pretty tight.
Yep.
And after listening to the fire department budget a couple weeks ago and that meeting, Matt was very good at every single item being itemized and looking at why it was that number.
Mm.
So I don't think that, you know, there's really a fairness portion to, you know, to how we look at the budget.
Okay. So your final question, number 14. In your opinion, in the next 3 years, what is the most pressing budgetary challenge to our town? Are there any town activities where expenditures should be increased or reduced?
I think we have to look forward to a new elementary school. To the South Waterboro Road being finally redone after God knows how many years of just being patched and whatever. I see those as probably 2 big items that the town faces.
Mm, yeah.
We've already talked about building a new town hall or building the addition to the town hall, and that's also a huge expenditure
Mm,
that I don't think we put enough money away for. I think we have about $100,000.
I think so. We're putting
With
100
this
in
year's
this year.
budget, I
Yeah.
think we're up around 100,000. Don't quote me on that,
Or
but
was it 150, something like that? Yeah.
you know, I think that those being 3 very large expenditures, we need to seriously consider how we budget for that. That's not something that you're gonna wanna see
Mm.
happen all in one tax year.
Yep.
There won't be any taxpayers left in this town. They will have migrated, be included. So, you know, to see the tax increase that much. You know, I think that fiscally, what we need to do is put little by little. Morris always said South Waterboro Road needed to be little by little until we got the money. The problem was, is the money got too big for the
Oh
price.
my goodness, yeah.
But I think the same philosophy holds true. You know, if you're thinking about buying a vacation home, you put money away little by little.
Mhm.
You don't, we're not rich enough, I'm not rich enough to just say, oh, I'm gonna go buy a vacation home.
yeah.
You know, you plan, it's like ski vacation and your vacation budget, you put a little bit away and a little bit away, and all of a sudden it's grown and you say, oh, we have enough money, we can go on vacation.
Yeah.
So I think we have to kind of look at it like that.
Yeah, excellent. All right, thank you. So, do you want to see if there's any public questions before you do your 3 minutes, or want to do your 3 minutes of closing? Which way do you want to do it?
I don't have a closing.
So,
No.
you don't, so, okay, so does anyone from the public have any questions for Sue before we're done with budget? Anybody? Everyone's good?
No.
Anything you want to say in closing?
Vote, go to town meeting. I don't care if you vote for me, but I am the only one on the ballot. And I really like being on budget committee. It's a learning curve. I think I've learned enough in the first 2 years that I need to be there for the third, fourth, and fifth, so.
Yep, excellent. Sue, thank you so much for coming tonight and answering these
Great.
hard questions. You did a great job, and
Thanks.
I think I got a password to get us on YouTube. So,
Good.
so we're gonna take a little 2-minute pause to see if I can do it, and we'll go with select board. All right,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you guys for all being here tonight.
All right.
Michelle's.
Yeah, it's right there. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I know that. Later in. Let me in for budget.
We had
You
two.
gonna run the budget? I'm gonna run. But I'll go if you're ready in. No, don't you dare. I've seen that job. I don't want that job. And I'm too opinionated for that job.
I don't want that job again either.
No, no.
I think she was good at being home officer, whatever you're.
I was very good at that.
Hi, do you have, I'm so
All right.
sorry, do you have YouTube?
So
username
what?
and password?
$2,000 a year, I don't need it.
Did they find somebody to replace you?
I think Eileen's doing it. I don't know. I haven't found anybody. I don't know if they're advertising. or
Like, fine, so.
Make Lindsay do it.
What is it?
$3,000 a year. I did it altruistically anyway.
Yep.
Like, awesome. You've been great. We'll go with that.
Cut my hair, cut my nose.
No, I can't look at
Yeah, I'm in business right now, but
I need that.
I don't have like to sign into YouTube from here is asking me for a sign in.
Go take a break.
Even though it's under a select board.
All right, have fun.
Great job, Sue.
I don't. Yeah, and then I just want the password. So I can put in.
What are you doing?
For one. If not, no, nothing there. So it's asking for Google, like a Google search where I am in. Brendan tried to get on this, but if not, don't worry. It's okay. So, no, that's okay. No, we were just taking a break.
Yeah.
If you can?
Nothing crazy. Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys mind waiting 60 seconds to get a password? Is everyone okay, you guys okay with that? I don't want to stress anyone out. Everyone's smiling, seeing they're willing to wait.
I'm timing in 60 seconds.
Start counting out loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brendan had a password, but it wasn't the right one.
You still might not get it.
I know. Can't tell me when you do something.
He gave me a different one than you have, wait a second, want me to try the one he gave me? Let me try the one he gave me, wait a second, I have to put my phone on to do this. Thanks.
Oh my gosh.
She goes to the time he gets out.
I never have a problem. I'm not saying, but every time. Bad, I never had problems. I kind of think it's on purpose. That's like still a Christmas party.
Okay, sorry. All right, it did not work, unfortunately. Yeah, so we're gonna keep going as is, it's still recording, we're good. Sorry, what?
The password didn't work, so
Oh.
it's too much to reset it, so that would take 5 minutes. We probably did more than 60 there. All right, sorry about that, guys. We tried. All right, so we are here for Still Candidate Night 2025, and we are on to the select board, and we have Liz Mitchell and, do you like Carrie Jo or KJ?
Carrie Jo.
Carrie,
I go by
Carrie,
KJ.
Carrie,
Makes it easier.
Carrie
Only
Jo
one, yeah.
Sampson, Sampson, sorry, correct, for running for a select board. So, we're gonna start alphabetically, so your name is first, see, that's nice, so I was an M before, it was always middle of alphabet, but you're the first, so it works, right? So we're gonna start out with Liz with her time to introduce herself. Go right ahead.
Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Mitchell. I usually go by Liz. I've lived in Lyman for 10 years next month, with my husband and 3 children. My oldest son is 12. My middle son is 9. He'll be 10 soon. And I have a 3-year-old daughter who is the boss at our house. I instantly fell in love with the small town atmosphere of Lyman. It reminds me of where I grew up, which is Kingston, New Hampshire. My husband Greg and I have been lucky enough to make some of our closest friends while living here, and I'm very grateful for that. I feel as though I would be an asset to the select board with the knowledge that I have of our town and our community.
Thank you very much. Carrie Jo?
Good evening. My name is Carrie Jo Sampson. I go by KJ, and I'm running for the select board, as you know. Thanks, Michelle, for donating your time for tonight.
You're welcome.
I grew up in Lawrence, Massachusetts, one of 3 daughters to a single mom, where I learned early the difference between want and need, and finding resourceful ways to get those things. Hard work, sacrifice, and family values are a big part of my foundation. Those ideals were a crucial part of my decision when I joined the Air Force in 1990. I just want to provide some details of my experience so you know how they can fit if I get elected to select board. I believe many of those skills will help me. Being in the military, it's not just about following orders. It's about doing your job individually, being a team member, being a leader, and knowing the difference when each is needed. So as an analyst, my work fluctuated between extensive research, tactical decisions, separating facts from information, anticipating challenges, identifying patterns, and forecasting potential outcomes. Key to any of this work was knowing you don't have to have every answer, saying you don't have the answer, and knowing where to find that answer. I was also a weapons targeteer, and just to shorten that, I knew the end result needed, and I had a plot of course to get to that end result using minimal effort and minimal cost to lives and missions. When I came off of active duty, I continued as a contractor, keeping those same functions to military members, US and allied. It was a broad spectrum of language barriers and cultural differences. So as you can tell, that really expanded my skills. As a contractor, I also developed government bids for my company, and when awarded those service contracts, we executed them by recruitment, hiring, training, as well as doing part of that job. And then I finished my bachelor's in business management. In 2012, after 19 years with my husband in Nevada, we decided to move closer to family. Since moving back to New England, I also worked at the IRS for several years. Sorry about that. And as a project manager for Air Force Cyber Defense. We moved to Lyman in 2021 from Pelham, New Hampshire. So in summary, I bring expertise in researching regulations and statutes, expertise to assess details in overall situations,
You're at
identify
2 minutes.
improvements. Am I over 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Well, if you want to finish up, if you're close, go ahead.
That's okay.
You
got it.
sure? All right.
Yep.
All right, so this is where, since we started with you, it's always hard to be the first one to go, so now we're gonna make KJ go
Sure.
first. We'll go back forth, I'll put initials, so everyone kind of feels like they got hit. So KJ, you can go ahead and, why have you chosen this point in time to run for election to select board?
Oh, under 2 minutes. When the nomination papers came out, I was asked a few times, did I ever consider running? I decided to run for the select board because I believe our small town offers us a great opportunity to be involved in the civics and taking care of our town. In a community of our size, individual contributions can have a real impact on both our local governance and our quality of life. I'm really excited to learn about more how the town operates on the inside, like the difference between sitting there and sitting here. I want to learn about the processes and relationships that keep our community functioning. My curiosity combined with my desire to serve is what made me decide to run. I also recognize we face very important challenges, mainly around balancing our tax burden while maintaining the services our town that we value. My background and perspective can bring fresh ideas to these challenges. Ultimately, I want to be a part of creating a collaborative environment where both long-term residents and newcomers like myself, so we can work together towards a common good for Lyman.
You did great. All right, now, do you want me to, it's up to you guys, do you want to repeat the question when you go, or if you think you're good, then you good?
I'm okay.
All right, go ahead.
I believe in the idea that if you want to see change, you have to be willing and step up and be part of it. Over the past few years, I've been closely observing the decisions being made and the direction our town is heading. While I have seen some positive progress, I also recognize there's still a lot of important work to be done. Now feels like the right time for me to get involved, not just to support what is going well, but also to bring balanced perspective and find ways to be sure that all voices are heard.
All right, so now we're starting with you again. This one's tough. So question number 2, how do you perceive the role of select board as a whole and the role of individual members of the select board?
Okay, I perceive the role of the select board as a whole to be the ones who set the direction of the town by adopting policies, approving budgets, and prioritizing initiatives. The select board should be the face of the town and the voice of the townspeople. Individually, select board members are responsible for working collaboratively with each other. Community members and town staff working all cohesively together. As a member, I would like to listen to residents' concerns and relay that feedback to the select board.
All right, thank you. KJ, you good to go?
Yes.
Okay.
So the board is our community's primary governing body, and its roles include setting overall policy direction and, as Liz said, strategic priorities for our town, providing fiscal oversight and responsible stewardship of our public resources, ensuring transparency to the residents, representing collective interests of the entire community, not just individuals or groups, and balancing immediate needs with long-term sustainability. As an individual member of the board, my job is to actively listen, not just to the members of the board, but to the town manager, the committees and the boards where we have experience, and also the residents, so I can make a better informed decision for our town.
Thank you so much. So, we're starting with you on number 3, KJ. The question is, what is the number one improvement and or priority you would like to see in our town, and what's the greatest challenge to achieving that goal?
The number one improvement I want to bring to the town is fiscal sustainability, keeping tax burdens manageable for residents while developing new revenue streams to fund essential services and infrastructure. Many of our residents, not just seniors on fixed income and young families, but a lot of us are feeling the squeeze of rising property taxes. I hope to help maintain the services our community values without constantly turning to taxpayers to make budget shortfalls. The greatest challenge to achieving this goal is identifying and implementing revenue sources that align with our town's characters and values, which none of us want to lose. This requires creative thinking, careful analysis, and sometimes initial investment before seeing any returns. So I would focus on continuing to explore state and federal grants as well as private funding opportunities, considering economic developments that increase our commercial tax base, but at a scale and a pace that our town can absorb. Our town has valuable assets in our fields and parks and ponds that may generate revenue while maintaining their availability to us residents and preserving their natural character. I would also prioritize continued transparency so residents know how their tax dollars are being spent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Liz?
Mine is sort of similar. I would really like to see improved communication and transparency between the select board and the public. Right now, I think that a lot of residents don't feel they're informed or engaged with what is happening in our town. Better outreach and open dialogue would empower more people to get involved and make thoughtful contributions. One of the biggest challenges is building trust and creating consistent, accessible channels for communication. Not everybody uses the same platforms. People probably don't feel comfortable attending meetings all the time. Public input can be very intimidating. So we just have to be proactive in reaching people where they are.
Thank you. So you're number 4. So number 4 is, how long have you lived in Lyman and where did you move from? Which I think you did already. but-
I did, yeah. I
Yeah.
lived in Lyman for 10 years next month. Like I said, prior to that, my husband and I lived in Hampton, New Hampshire. And then pre-kids, we lived in San Diego, California, and Kittery, Maine.
Thank you. KJ?
My husband and I, where we met, I lived in Nevada in the last student station. We were there for 19 years. It was a long time in Las Vegas. We moved to New England in 2012, and where we lived in Pelham, New Hampshire for about 8 years. We came here in 21 and couldn't wait to get here. It's just so nice to be away from congestion, slower pace of life. People know each other, they take care of each other. You still get the privacy that goes along with that.
Thank you. So KJ, you are number 5. Do you belong in any other governing boards supported by the town or otherwise, i.e. sports, library, etc.?
I don't. When the previous select board left her position, I had volunteered to run the machines, which, as you know, is pretty tricky, and take some notes. I did volunteer a couple of times, but it was just never followed up on for whatever reason. That was it.
All right.
Thank
Thank you. Liz?
I've been the president of the PTC at Lyman Elementary for 3 years and served on the PTC as a mom helper for, I think, 4 years prior to that. I enjoy supporting the school immensely, and I look forward to donating more of my time to the PTC as much as I can. I've also been on the Massabesic United Soccer Club and Stallions basketball program as an at-large member for the past few years. I love to help grow those programs that I think are so crucial to the development of youth sports in our district. My husband is also the president of Massabesic Little League. I personally am in awe of the volunteer programs within our district. The hard work and dedication that goes into each of these organizations is unmatched, and we are very lucky to live in a place where our children and grandchildren have access to such valuable programs.
Thank you. So Liz, you're this one. This is kind of a hard one, I
Okay.
think, without being on the select board yet, but so the question was, when will the town look at adding additional cable services besides Spectrum? So again, tough one where you're, it's a tough one, but have at it.
Okay. After doing a little research, my understanding is that until there's more options in the area, we're sort of stuck with that.
I think so.
Yeah. But I think that sort of the way of the future is streaming services. I know myself,
Yeah.
my family, we just got rid of Spectrum and just went fully to different streaming services, and it's probably more than half the price of what we were paying for Spectrum, so. Don't know.
Yeah, that's a tough one. KJ?
This regarding Spectrum, the state passed a law in sometime in 23 or 24 that reformed how cable and video service providers operate within municipalities.
Mm.
Part of the change included establishing a uniform fee structure that replaced the varying franchises fees that were previously negotiated with small towns, including us. And that would have also helped encourage competition. In October of last year, there was opposition to the law, surprised by Charter, who owns Spectrum, including they weren't happy with the way the fee schedule was changed. So we're currently at a standstill. Spectrum is appealing the law, so Lyme is at a standstill until that's resolved.
Yeah, we were that close,
Yeah.
that close. All right, so Liz, you were gonna be number 7. So as a senior citizen with no children
Oh,
attending,
wait, it's me, but that's.
oh, is it you? Sorry. Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Put the wrong, okay. So KJ, as a senior citizen with no children attending RSU 57 district schools, do you believe the tax should be eliminated or give a 50% discount on our real estate taxes?
So we don't have children, and yes, I would absolutely love that, but it's just not reasonable. I understand about 70% of our taxes goes to the school. So my opinion, I don't see this as a current realistic option. I would say that also the tax break, if taken from some of the residents and not others, it could destabilize the financial foundation on the school. Plus, it would significantly increase the tax burden on those who do have children attending schools here. That's why I believe it's essential to keep looking at exploring additional revenue services to offset these rising costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz?
My answer was no. I believe that we are all part of the same community, and as members of the community, we all pay taxes towards public school. Public education is public good. So even if someone doesn't have kids in school, the whole community benefits from having an educated population. I think that I would argue that many of today's seniors benefited from public schools in the past, either themselves or their kids. So continuing to contribute helps maintain the system for future generations.
Thank you. All right, question number 8 is kind of a long and hard one. So I'm going to give you guys 4 minutes each on that one because it really was, it's kind of a multi-part. So I'm going to read it, and with everyone's blessing, I'm going to give them 4 minutes each because it is a long one. And I don't want you to feel pressured to rattle it all off there. Number 8, do you support restrictive zoning and building moratoriums, or do you believe in planning for growth to create an inclusive community for elders, low-income families, renters, and people of ethnic backgrounds? So in the subpart of that from the person's question is, what is your vision or opinion on, number 1, changing minimum lot size requirements, number 2, supporting or opposing multifamily residences, and number 3, commercial business expansion? So that's where they're getting 4 minutes each. So with that one, Liz, you start.
Okay,
Okay.
I don't need the 4 minutes.
Okay, well, if you do and
Okay.
you want to, if you
Okay.
spirit moves, you go for it.
Okay. I do support keeping our current minimum lot size rules to preserve the character and integrity of our neighborhoods. I believe that our community is already inclusive without major changes to its core zoning. At the same time, I am in favor of carefully planned commercial growth that serves residents and boosts the local economy. Growth should improve our quality of life while representing what makes our community unique.
Okay, okay,
And I just want to say, part of this was in another question, so I'm going to answer most of it, but then the other stuff will come.
okay, sounds good. All right, go for it.
When I first started my campaign, I was asked a very similar question. I said, oh, well, caps and moratoriums, that sounds great. Yeah, I'm wrong. So I'm going to disagree with my previous statement. So I did a bunch of research, like everybody else. I'm concerned about preserving this town's character and preventing uncontrolled growth. I did do some research on comparative communities that did implement moratoriums. That approach usually led to higher housing prices and less diverse communities, financially speaking. When affordable housing options are limited, people become trapped in their environments and in their living situation. They can barely afford where they live and they can't afford to move. For a small town, a quick and large increase of rapid growth could significantly disrupt our community and potentially change our town's character in ways that we had no intention to do. Instead of adopting extreme stance on restrictive zonings, I support smart growth policies that address our needs. The expansion of homes and small businesses at a rate that allows our town to gradually accommodate the increased demands on services and facilities that would likely be a result of that growth. That the expansion and new development be small scale and distributed throughout the zones that our planning board has put forth. This way we can prevent concentrated burdens. I believe our community needs diverse housing options, the opportunities for seniors to age in place and young families to afford their first homes. The Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission has been hired to assist the current comp plan committee to address updating and improving growth plans if we need them. Remember, we all get to vote on what they come up with. That'll be great. For changing minimum lot sizes, I'm very happy with the status quo. I love my 5 acres. I will say in November, when we voted on the ADUs, and we vote to exclude the verbiage where they could be added to a property, but the owner did not need to reside on the property. I just want to say I voted against it because I felt that was kind of a workaround to changing lot sizes. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. You guys did great. Both kept it to 2 minutes. Woo. All right, so Carrie Jo, you were number 9. Do you oppose keeping / making Route 111 commercial residential so Lyman can attract larger commercial businesses to help with our tax base? Do you believe the commercial businesses will alleviate taxes or create a tax burden on the town?
So some of these questions were kind of generic and they're really
Right.
hard to answer. So
Yes.
what do they mean by commercial business? The size, the scope, effect on traffic, environment, all of that has a part in answering the question, right? So there would be a big difference between a fast food restaurant, maybe an arts and crafts center, or an Amazon distribution center. Big difference. We've established a planning board responsible for ensuring compliance with zoning ordinances. The ordinances specify permitted activities, with most land uses requiring site reviews that go over all the specifics and the impacts that they have. So I'm going to say I would rely on the expertise and carefully consider every recommendation from the planning board that we get for any changes in the growth.
All right, thank you so much. Liz?
I agree. I think the type of business matters. I am definitely worried that too much development could change the small town feel that we all love. However, where 111 is already a main road, it may be the most logical area of growth without disrupting the quieter parts of town. My understanding is that bringing in larger commercial businesses could bring in more tax revenue. With this increased revenue, I would rather reduce the tax burden on homeowners than spend it somewhere else.
All right, thank you. And so Liz, you're starting number 10. Do you feel new daycares would hurt currently existing daycares in Lyman? Why or why not?
I do not feel that new daycares would hurt the existing daycares in town. I have, like I said, a 3-year-old daughter. And when she was really little and I was going back to work, it was really hard to find somewhere for her to go. And I ended up having to go out of town to a daycare out in Arundel at the time because that's where there was an opening. I think that there is a huge need for daycares in this town as well as before and after school care options.
No, it is tough. Okay.
Another difficult question because I don't know how many daycares in town. I don't have any children, but what's the demand? Do current daycares have a current waiting list? And from what I understand, it's usually very long, like mentioned. Usually they have to go out several towns over to try to find support. And I'm just going to say this country runs on capitalism. I think there would have to be some serious significant issues before I would want any government involvement in capping specific business types.
Thank you so much. All right, KJ, number 11, property rights. Do you feel giving the town the ability to tell a private landowner that they can only build when the town says yes is denying the property owner of their property rights, basically capping growth? Are you for or against this, and do you have data to state why you believe this way?
I believe it's a fine balance between individual property rights and community interests. I believe property rights are fundamental, not absolute. Property ownership comes with both rights and responsibilities to your community. Effective growth management isn't just about saying no to development. It's about creating predictable, fair systems that allow development to occur in ways and at rates that our schools, environment, and community character can be reasonably accommodated, and that growth doesn't outpace our ability to support it. When that happens, the entire community, including existing property owners, can suffer. So my answer, it's a balance between your property and the cost to the community as a whole. When I moved here 3 years ago, several meetings, the same parcel of property was addressed several times to the board about dumping and the overall look of it. And I know the board had to address it in legal avenues. I'm just saying that's an example between property rights and the common good.
Thank you so much. That's great. Liz?
Very similarly, this one is tough because I see both sides. On one hand, it makes sense for the town to have some control so growth doesn't get out of hand. And the infrastructure needs to be able to keep up. On the other hand, it can feel like an overstep when it's limiting what people can do with their own land. Honestly, I really think it just depends on the situation. Some places need tighter control while others can benefit from a little bit more flexibility.
All right, thank you. All right, so Liz, number 12. Is building housing for the elderly a harm to the town?
Lyman has a growing elderly demographic, so providing appropriate housing lets those long-term residents stay close to family and friends and remain in the community where they're comfortable. While older adults downsize, sometimes they're leaving behind these larger homes that then young families can move into. So that helps with housing turnover. I would like to think housing for elderly would be really beneficial to this town.
Thank you. KJ?
So I wasn't sure if this was for a new development build run by the town or privately owned, so I'm just quickly go through both. So privately owned, I think there's one senior living complex. I spoke with the town manager recently, and she mentioned the cost of living there is increasing to where some cannot or soon cannot afford to stay there. Unfortunately, the town has no involvement on setting price structure for that. I believe zoning allows for more senior living developments. I think another facility and complex would absolutely benefit senior living. I think the issue may be more about attracting developers to the area to build at a size that is comfortable for this town to absorb. There are different levels of senior housing, as we all know. There's senior living just based on age, next level assisted living, which comes with a little bit more of support by staff. And then there's full care facilities, which comes with full-time staff and full-time medical support. I think they're all worth considering looking. It doesn't hurt to look and do cost analysis to see. I think one of the benefits of that we could also attract new and long-term residents based on the staffing that works there. So that could be, double bonus for us. So I do not believe this town could currently support the financial investment to build one by us and long-term managed by us. That I don't think we could do, but not at this time. Who knows? It's definitely something that we should look forward to.
All right, thank you so much. So KJ, you're gonna be number 13. If elected, is it possible that there will be times that your own personal connections or involvement with a group or individual will pose a conflict of interest? If or when this happens, how would you best represent the town of Lyman? Examples include youth sports organizations, private landowners, etc. How do you tune out the noise, emotions, and opinions and focus on taking actions that are in the best interest of the entire town, not just the group or person that is the loudest?
So yes, it's definitely possible that could happen. This is a close-knit community, so personal and professional connections often overlap with town business. If elected to the board, I do recognize that potential conflicts of interest are a serious matter and they have to be handled with integrity and transparency. If I cannot separate my personal opinion from acting on behalf of the town, or I have personal investments in any way in anything brought to the board, I would recuse myself from discussion or voting on any matters pertaining to that.
Thank you so much. Liz?
Okay, the first step in addressing any potential conflict of interest would be to be transparent about my connections. By openly disclosing relationships, I can build trust within the community. It ensures that my decisions are seen as fair and unbiased and allows the public to understand when I may need to recuse myself from specific decisions. I also do believe that my knowledge in some of these areas would be beneficial to bring to the board. I do intend on establishing clear boundaries between my personal and professional life. In times of noise, it's important to keep the big picture in mind. I would always want to ask myself, what is in the best interest of the entire town? This means evaluating every decision based on how it would impact the community as a whole, not just the most vocal group or influential person. Listening to all perspectives is essential, but ultimately the goal should be making decisions that are equitable, just, and beneficial for all. There will always be people who don't agree and have differing opinions, and that's just part of it.
All right, thank you. So Liz, you're number 14. As a select board member, you're charged with being an overseer of the poor. With costs continuing to rise on most goods and services, what ideas, if any, do you have that could offset the tax burden to help residents in the town? For instance, charging for field use that was proposed earlier this year.
I think that we need to keep the focus on keeping our town accessible and fair, like I said, for everyone, especially during a time when the costs are rising across the board. Balancing the town's financial needs with the well-being of our residents, especially those struggling the most, is probably the biggest part of the job. Charging youth organizations for field use, especially when those fields were promised to remain public in the original deed, isn't just unpopular, but it goes against the spirit of community investment. Friendship Park, for example, in Waterboro, Alfred Park and Alfred are all well-maintained communal recreational spaces with open gates for people of all ages and at no cost to those who seek to use them. Our kids' development and community spirit shouldn't come with a price tag. As a town, we could pursue more state and federal grants, especially ones aimed at infrastructure or energy efficiency. Perhaps we could even encourage sponsorships from businesses or partnership with some businesses to maintain and improve town amenities, whether that they adopt a field or a park and in turn, pay for maintenance or something like that. There's ways around it.
Thank you so much. KJ?
I did agree with the field use charge. Taxes are going to increase due to rising costs to support the town. So salaries, plowing, utilities, it's all going up. No matter what happens here, it's going in, and it's going to affect us. The duty of the board is to minimize financial burden to its residents wherever and whenever possible. The opposing discussion was that it could add additional financial burden to families in the league. I totally understand that, but the board must support all families in the town and avoid unnecessary financial burdens. Public fields are not free. It's excessive, I believe, to expect town residents to continue to bear a full burden solely because the fields are located in our town. Sponsorship or donations is another great way to look at that for any activities over mandatory fees like our taxes. I reviewed the past board meetings over several years, and I just wanted to bring up that field use fees has been being discussed since 23 and possibly even sooner than that. I just want to emphasize and grateful to the board to look at these potential revenue streams, whether we use them or not, to try to help us with our increasing taxes. So I appreciate their efforts. I do believe there has to be some give and take.
Thank you so much. KJ, number 15. How have you been preparing yourself to step into the role of select board member?
My brain's mush by now. So I reviewed meeting minutes. I went back to 22. I had to pick a starting point somewhere. I watched the meetings or listened to audios or read minutes if that wasn't available. I've read the charter, comp plan, zoning ordinances, planning board mission statements, the past ARPA discussions, all the codes of ethics, codes of conduct, Robert's rules, and some of the previous charter commission meetings. I attended the recent fire department budget discussion, learned a lot there. In the latest joint select board and budget committee meeting. Research was not just about preparing for tonight, it's about preparing for the role. Also, I get to learn about my town, so it's been really great. I've also talked with town residents over the past few weeks, and thank you to those who invited me into their homes. We got to discuss their beliefs, their goals, their opinions, what they like about Lyman, what don't they, including the government. And I shared my opinions as well, and we did not always agree, let me tell you. But it was an enjoyable discussion. It fostered community and it fostered trust between us. So regardless of the outcome of this election, the knowledge and the friendships and discussions I've had, it's a win-win for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liz.
I have been preparing by trying to stay engaged with local issues, making it a point to listen to a wide range of community voices. I've attended or watched meetings regularly for the past few years. I also was on the Bunganuck committee, totally forgot to mention that
Oh.
before. I was reviewing meeting minutes and I started familiarizing myself with the town charter and some of the processes. I just want to make sure that I can contribute effectively from day one. For me, it's not about just knowing the book stuff. It's about being informed and accessible and ready to collaborate.
Okay, thank you. Liz, you're gonna be number 16.
Okay.
A proposal is brought forward for a technology-based solution aimed at improving the efficiency of town operations and promoting greater balance and equity for taxpayers. However, some residents expressed concerns I can't even say solutions. Expressed concerns that the solution may infringe on personal privacy and question whether the financial investment is justified. As a select board member, how would you approach this situation and what factors would influence your vote on the matter if elected? I think I'm sure I'm viewing this as the eagle eye.
Yeah, that's what I took.
As how I'm interpreting the question the person presented, the eagle eye that was presented to the town to
Yeah.
help the assessor that the people came out against, so.
It's me, right?
Yep.
Okay. I would like to make sure that I understood the proposed technology. What does it do? What problems is it solving? What's the scope of data it collects? What's the total cost, including implementation, maintenance, staff training? I'd like to seek input from residents, especially those with concerns about privacy and costs. It's important that people feel heard and not just talked at. My vote would be based on whether or not the proposal truly serves the public good, justifies its cost with meaningful returns, and protects the rights of our residents, while also reflecting the needs of the community. Whether my vote, depending on the situation, were to be a yes or a no, I would want to ensure that I explained to the public why I was voting that way. And maybe even if it wasn't what people liked, I would suggest a revision that would allow those who do have concerns to be more comfortable with the proposal.
Okay, thank you. KJ?
When this option was discussed, the first thing I did was research the laws allowing aerial photography or personal. If anybody wants, I can send you the link. There was actually a case law that went up to the Supreme Court. Bottom line, it is allowed, but when this came out, mostly over social media, because I didn't listen to the whole thing, I will say that that presentation was really long. It was really about drones over our home. And I'm gonna admit that I was one of those meerkats where my head just kind of went up and said, what'd you say? Drone's gonna be over my head? And things kind of went off the rails from there. But what things would I consider now that we didn't get a chance to address then because of the outcry? The area photography software versus the assessor taking photos and logging that, what was the cost structure? What was the time factor in each? How long using the assessor option would it take to recover the data, not only the data we lost, but the backlog as a result of that? And what is the time requirement for the upcoming revals completed? Is the town going to face any fines if we don't have those in time? I don't know the answers to those, but those would be things that should be considered. So of course, hindsight of 2020, I would follow up with presenting other options that took into consideration the privacy concern, of course, that affected so many, include cost, effort, comparing the options, and allowing people to either vote or giving them public input at a hearing. As a last note, the board, I believe, is readdressing or looking to readdress a possible solution for this item. One of the upcoming funding articles will include salary for an assistant to the assessor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, number 17, KJ, will be you. How will you balance the division between long-term residents and newcomers, ensuring all ideas are welcome and everyone works together for the common good?
So we all know the common good serves the welfare and interests of our community as a whole, not just one or a group. So key factors in those types of decisions: long-term sustainability, consider future generations' needs alongside current priorities; basic fairness, provide reasonable opportunity and dignity for all community members; transparency, continue to include the residents in all discussions. I mean, the information is out there to provide it, but sometimes I know there's been a lot of work on trying to get that involvement, and we need to continue with that. But know that the common good and public opinion aren't always the same. Make decisions that may require some compromise, but ultimately strengthen the community as a whole, with benefits distributed widely across the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Long-term residents bring the wisdom of history, traditions, the lessons that they've learned, and the spirit that truly shaped Lyman to be what it is today. Newcomers bring new ideas, new energy, and a desire to contribute to something meaningful. I don't see these as two competing voices. I see them as a cohesive piece of the same story. A healthy community listens, learns, and leads together. I would like to see a space created where all ideas are welcome. And listening is just as important as speaking, whether you've lived here your whole life or just recently moved to town.
Thank you. Liz, 18 will be you. How would you handle conflicts with a fellow board member?
I don't intend to have any conflicts with any other board members. I think it's okay to not always agree on items, issues, but I will always treat board members with respect and be willing to listen to their side and ideas in hopes that they would do the same for me.
All right, thank you. KJ?
Yes, there shouldn't be conflicts, just differences of opinion, but the code of conduct states listen courteously and attentively to all public discussions, and it's usually addressed in the public, but we have to do that to each other too, right? Amongst the board members. But let's say a conflict happens. If we're at an impasse, the quorum is lost, I would ask the chair to table the discussion. I would approach and discuss the conflict with the member in private to hash out any concerns. Public meetings aren't the appropriate place to resolve personal conflicts. Regardless of those private conflicts, board members need to provide a unified front in respect during public meetings. Residents deserve to see their elected officials working together constructively. We don't have to agree, we need to work together. And also, we don't require a unanimous agreement on every issue. They do require mutual respect and a shared commitment to constructive government. That would be my guiding principle in managing any conflicts that arise. And a friend uses the term, you may have heard, agreeable discourse, just to add to that for the board, agreeable and productive discourse.
Thank you so much. KJ, you're number 19. What would you do if you saw board members forming exclusive alliances?
Not sure what they mean by that, but
Me neither.
I'm going to try to do my best. Board members can meet to discuss issues outside of town, as long as it's less than 2 members. I have more to say on that. And that decisions are not being made. Discussion, yes, decisions, no. If it's 3 or more, right, it's a quorum. So first, I would need to determine if town business was actually being discussed. I wouldn't want to jump to any conclusions. It's a small town, personal and professional relationships can and do overlap. Don't want to make that assumption just because in this small town, those 3 people happen to be in the same geographic location. But after consideration, I believe it was an issue. I would report it. It's outlined in the ethics.
Thank you so much. Liz?
I would want to watch closely to see if the alliances are just social or if they're actually impacting decision-making or transparency. Not all alliances are harmful, but some can undermine governance. If the behavior starts to affect board decisions or exclude others, I'd want to document specific examples so I could formally address the issue in a public forum.
All right, thank you. So Liz, you're going to be number 20. How would you promote professionalism, respect, and open dialogue on the select board?
Lead by example. I intend on consistently modeling respectful behavior, active listening, and professional conduct in meetings and in public. I want to ensure, like I've said, all voices are welcomed and valued, even when there's disagreement. Something very, very important to me is practicing active listening and showing genuine interest in other people's perspectives and ideas.
Thank you.
Can I say samesies?
Yeah.
Lead by example. I would model the behavior I expect to receive as well by listening attentively, acknowledging valid points from colleagues, regardless of disagreement, and maintaining a courteous tone even during heated discussions. Personal conduct does set the tone for the entire board. Separate those ideas from individuals. With any disagreement, focus on the critique of the idea and not the person that's presenting it. And create space for difficult conversations. Some issues require deeper or longer discussions, and the board's very good about having workshops to be able to discuss them in more depth without having the worry of any decisions that needed to be made. So.
Excellent, thank you. A couple of questions coming up, I feel are kind of like you guys have already addressed them, but it was really hard to lump them in with them, so that's why they're still separate. So if you can kind of, if you want to say kind of like ditto from another one, go for it. But, this is KJ, this is you, number 21. How do you ensure personal relationships don't affect your decisions on the board?
Same, so, bring it up if
Yeah.
needed to be, recuse myself and make sure I share the details with the public and the other board members why I needed to do.
Perfect, thank you,
Thank you.
Liz.
Yes, same. Again, I already said it, but I'd want to maintain a strong separation between, board issues or personal things and board-related interactions. If it's a close friend or family member, I would be very upfront about it, being transparent. If there is some sort of specific conversation that I might have input on, even though, how do I say this? I'll be transparent about any potential conflicts of interest. However, if I have some input on a specific conversation, I will not hesitate to provide any information that may shed some light on a matter at hand. If a personal relationship would cloud judgment, I would not hesitate to recuse myself from a specific vote.
Great, thank you. All right, let's see, so Liz, this is you, number 22.
Yep.
And this is kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's the same thing as number
it is.
19. So do you guys want to, I'll read it, but I think it's basically your same answer as
Yeah.
before with the alliances. The question was, how would you address board members making decisions outside of public meetings? I feel like it's the same premise as number 19, unless you have something to add. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say. So that's
Okay.
22, go ahead. Liz, do you have anything you want to start with?
No, it's the same.
The same you feel, okay, so
Well,
KJ?
I just want to say because when I was meeting with people the past few weeks, when I actually asked about the scenario, well, why can't 3 or more people have this discussion? It saves time, so you get to decisions faster. Do more town business. Well, one, the whole board isn't there when it's 3 or more, and then the public has no idea how they got to that decision and all the details that came to get there. That's important. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. So did you want to put anything in there? You good?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. 23, KJ. What does acting in the best interest of the town mean to you, especially when it's unpopular?
It's another way of saying for the common good, right?
Mm.
It served the welfare and interests of our community as a whole, not just the individuals as groups. Leadership often means having the courage to make those difficult choices when they serve the greater good, while remaining accountable to the public throughout the process. Popularity cannot be the measuring stick for sound governance. Doing what's right means standing firm even when facing criticism. Long-term sustainability, consider future generations, I know I said this before, needs alongside current priorities. Sometimes the most responsible decisions prioritize future health over immediate convenience. This might mean making investment today that won't show returns for years, or implementing preventative measures before problems become crises. Consider diverse impacts. Acting in the town's best interest means considering how those decisions affect all community members, especially those whose voices might not be the loudest at public meetings or not heard at all. Transparency again, and be guided by data and expertise. Decisions should be informed by facts, research, professional expertise, and we have those at budget committees, other boards that we have that expertise, dedicated members on those boards and committees. So we utilize that experienced input and recommendations. Maintain fiscal responsibility and clearly explaining the reasoning behind the decision. Demonstrate that all known perspectives were genuinely considered. Show how the decision supports broader community values, and follow through with implementation and evaluation by presenting any progress or issues after implementation. We do the implementation, but usually don't hear or as much sometimes because there's so much other business on how everything's doing and what went well, what didn't went well. Thank you. I
Thank
see
you
your
so-
finger moving.
Yeah, same. Moving over, so you had 10 seconds. Liz?
I think that acting in the best interest of the town means making decisions based on long-term well-being and sustainability. It means being the voice of the people in the sense that I can be somebody that bridges the gap of communication between the people of the town and the select board. I intend on leading with integrity and not popularity. I would like to vote based on facts and understanding of issues and never make a rash decision without doing the research. Similar to.
Great, thank you so much. So Liz, this is gonna be number 20. We're winding down, I promise. We're on 20, there's 27, we're at 24. So 24, what are your thoughts for self-funded programs for recreational and community activities to help build more community events and offer a variety of events for all people of different groups and ages?
I believe that self-funded programs for recreational and community activities are a valuable way to enhance what our Parks and Rec Committee already does very well. Our Parks and Rec team provides outstanding events and activities throughout the year and brings people together in a way that they enrich the lives of residents of all ages, I think. Supporting their efforts through fundraising, sponsorships, and more community involvement can expand the variety of offerings that they're able to provide. And it makes sure that programs remain accessible to everybody. I'm a really big, strong advocate. I was the same way in PTC. I believe that events should be at little to no cost for families, especially during times when everyday expenses continue to rise. Making sure that our programs are inclusive and affordable not only benefits individuals and families, but also strengthens that community spirit.
Great, thank you. KJ?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's out there. Can you read the question again?
Sure, I can. What are your thoughts for self-funded programs for recreational and community activities to help build more community events and offer a variety of events for all people of different groups and ages?
So this was the most fun question out of all 27. And one of the reasons I'm excited to run. I'd love to help research, and I know I don't have to be on the board to do that, but I would love to help research and suggest programs and events. Kennybunk has a senior ride program where people who are willing to give rides, they register with the town. People who need rides, contact and ask who's available, and that way somebody doesn't pick up for me that you don't know who they are. I think that would be fantastic, and I know we have people that are willing, myself included, to do that. We have a lot of experience in this town and state. Perhaps we could recruit certified volunteers to volunteer, no money, to give a seminar on issues town members are currently facing. How about new individual tax laws that are coming out at the beginning of each year? I know there's been changes to property taxes for the seniors. It's been up and down and no one kind of knows what's going on with that. Maybe someone from the state can come in and talk about that. Estate planning. The recreational activities, absolutely. Paint nights. I went to the events over the winter, and I love having these opportunities close to home. So self-funded explains itself. Great.
Wonderful.
More, please.
Thank you. All right, so KJ, you're number 25. In the past 5 years, select boards have created policy and procedure structures where there was none or it was antiquated. Transparency has been of the utmost importance and key in using these new policies and procedures. Is there a voice of reason, common sense, or real change you feel is lacking in our current select board or the policies and procedures developed?
So I'm going to apologize. I might go over a little 2 minutes, but if you could give me a little way. I
Sure.
believe there's been a lot of progress with the town and board over the last several years. Absolutely. Just an example, the recent joint and board meeting. There's 2 different funding articles that they're now going to just actually present them to as a vote, 2 separate ones that they separated from the rest of the salaries. I just thought it was a great way to show giving residents a chance to vote on where their money goes. It really was a big change. Before the town manager was added to our government structure, mostly saw the select board as kind of a tactical board with 2 meetings a month. It was triage. They were always putting out fires. Nothing against them, but that they only had so much time to deal with that. With the town manager and more staff to address the daily operations and personnel, the board, I think they're at an amazing turning point where they can now look more closely at strategic planning for this town. I'd like to propose implementing maybe a more interactive workshop, something between a board workshop and a public hearing. It have to be structured, but maybe we can start to get those new ideas flowing again. I think that would be great. Maybe a quarterly basis, same as the budget does. This approach could encourage greater town participation and allow more space and public input and fresh ideas. It's great that there are new policies to help streamline progress. When I did my research, I did it all using the town website, and I will say it really needs update and work. I know it's been there for a long time. It really needs some help. That's what I would like to see. More stuff. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Liz?
Okay, so my perception is that there's been several instances lately where decisions seem to move forward without all the facts being gathered or thoroughly vetted. I think that this leads to outcomes that feel disconnected from the expectations of the community. In those moments, I would ask, does this make sense for our town? I think that that question has been absent or a little too quiet. For example, the ticket booth was purchased for Bunganut without someone even considering that maybe it would need airflow or air conditioning at some point. Maybe if we talked to the people that staffed the booth ahead of time, we would have better understanding of what it needed. Same thing, the gate at Kennybunk Pond is now off because it has been damaged so many times. Implementing the field use fee prior to researching how surrounding towns charge for fees and public fields. Transparency isn't just about sharing the information about after the decision is made. It's also about thoughtful deliberation before decisions happen.
Thank you. Liz, number 26. Transparency, integrity. If someone attending a meeting via Zoom is asked to identify themselves and they do not, how would you handle that and what action should be taken?
So I'm going to read this one because it is directed at me and I am uncomfortable. So I'm going to read off.
If you don't want to answer, you don't have to
I'm
either.
going to answer. I'm going to answer. This question is a direct shot at something that transpired recently. My husband, Greg, was speaking at a select board meeting via Zoom after he was dismissed by the board when he attended in person and asked a question during public comment about the status of field use. The select board turned him away and he came home where I was listening to the meeting live and heard the board begin to speak about the exact topic he had just been there asking about. He hopped on Zoom so he could answer some of the questions the select board had. I was in fact speaking in the background of the Zoom call, but I was not talking to the select board. I was sternly telling my husband to stop repeating himself because all I heard was him saying the same thing over and over. Nothing I had said had anything to do with the conversation. In fact, I was simply nudging him to explain further what he was saying instead of repeating the same thing over and over. I did not identify myself as I did not see it necessary at the time. It was quite clear that I was the one speaking, but I was not speaking to the board. Had I been speaking to the board, I would have said who I was. If the same thing were to occur, I don't think I would worry about it because in my mind, it was a harmless situation.
Okay, thank you. KJ?
I thought, sorry, I didn't know that, so I'm just gonna read what I have put. I wouldn't be handling any of the who comes into the Zoom and who can be put in there, because that's the position of the select board clerk to manage the Zoom room. All of our town meetings are public. Anyone can come in. You don't all have to be residents to sit here. You don't have to be residents to watch the live stream. I know that it's not happening right now. Being able to participate is a different situation. Like our annual town meeting, when we have the treasurer, Jeanette, stand up so we can get more information on budget questions, we do have to vote for a non-resident to be able to speak. I think the same should be expected in Zoom. If you don't identify yourself as a resident, I think you put away your opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And question 27. Okay, I know you made it. Breathe, Kelly, breathe. 27. All right, this starts off with KJ. How should the town prioritize improvements to recreational spaces and public safety of buildings and future facilities? Given the poor condition of these assets, do you think a full-time employee is needed to oversee improvements and functioning/maintenance of facilities and fields with help from volunteer committees? And that's a longer one, so if you do want a little bit longer, go for it.
So improvements could be addressed by triage, right? What areas are the most used, what are the most critical, and which of those are in the worst condition? How much do these repairs cost? How long will it take? Cost and need comparisons help with prioritizing. I want to address more the full-time employee. When I was researching the last several years of town information, I couldn't find a full description of some of the committee. Mission statements for parks and recs, it's not against any of them, just to base these questions, I had what everybody else has available here. There were no members listed for buildings and ground committees. So when that question was asked, I'm like, I don't know who those are. So my answer doesn't have a lot of information. While a full-time position may be valuable to the near term, I think a more detailed plan and discussion is needed first. What are the current shortfalls the town staff and committees cannot support? What maintenance issues have there been? What is the amount of time spent? Not just the hours, but the position that addresses it, because that salary and that goes towards the expenses to do that fix. What functions were hindered while waiting for a fix and solution? Can a full-time maintenance person position fill these needs? I don't agree with jumping both feet into a full-time position. It seems premature. I would say start smaller, assess the needs as we go for a full-time position. Maybe we need a higher level, but I don't believe in starting there. Cost benefit analysis, that would be great to make that
All
decision.
Thank you so much. Liz?
I have a pretty big opinion on this one. Given the visibly poor condition of several town facilities and recreational spaces, it's clear to me that we need to take a more dedicated approach to their maintenance, safety, and future development. I fully support the hiring of a full-time maintenance and facilities manager or employee. This role would provide coordination, oversight, and long-term planning to ensure the town assets are properly maintained and safe for public use. It's clear that a centralized point of responsibility is needed to track the conditions of our buildings, our fields, manage repairs and improvements at the transfer station all over, and support the town in planning for future needs at those places. However, I want to be very clear that I think this role should remain separate from Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec has proven to be highly effective, a volunteer-led body focused on creating and executing community events and recreational programs. Their creativity, passion, and dedication are invaluable assets to our town. Their efforts should not be diluted or redirected by the introduction of a new position. The maintenance/facilities individual should work in collaboration with Parks and Rec only when it's needed, like when facilities related to their programming require attention. Otherwise, I think the responsibilities should remain clearly defined and separate to maintain the strength and morale of the Parks and Rec Committee.
Okay, all right. So, do you guys want to you want to open it up to questions and then do your closing after that, or do your closing and then open it up? I'll defer to what you would like. You want to open it up? All right, so at this point, if there's congratulations, ladies, you did it. Excellent job, both of you. Thank you. You have to breathe for a second. Everyone shake it off. Excellent job. Seriously, guys, you did really great. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know that was hard, and they put some questions to you both. They really did. They put some questions to you. That was not easy, and well done. Is there anyone in the audience that has questions that they would like to ask? If you could come up to the microphone, identify who you are, and let me know your question.
Yeah, my question would be, do either of you believe that we should have?
So have the question come to me first, and then we'll just.
Should we have an open door policy when we're having meetings in the town?
In what sense?
In this town, in this room?
Uh-huh.
Should we have an open door policy?
Do we have an open door policy? Open door policy in what sense? I want to understand what your definition would be.
The door closed.
Oh, because there's people
When
out there
I was a
talking. Do
selectman, that was a fast rule. We had an open door.
you mean tonight? Oh, it's because there was people talking out there.
Loud out
We
there.
used to ask them to quiet down.
Oh, well, my apologies.
Well,
So
my question is, do you believe we should
So,
have an open door?
the question posed to both of you, and
Literally an open
who is,
door.
well,
Okay.
let me see, who was the last one to go? KJ, so Liz, question to you. Do you feel like we should have an open door policy?
Absolutely, but usually actually they put a sign on it that says, come in, but meeting in progress.
Okay,
So,
Yeah.
but in my perception is that is an open door, it's just closed,
should be open.
literally.
okay, one moment, KJ?
Sorry, because we have the YouTube going, there's a lot of times I watch from home and I cannot hear anything because sometimes that door is open. So I would go with that.
Okay.
People can come in and out.
Yeah, it's not locked.
That's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you so much.
I got one more question.
Oh,
Can I ask it, Priscilla, or do you?
well, wait, no. If this is for someone else, they can come ask their question. We do have someone else that wants to ask a question. So,
I have
can-
one quick question.
okay, what's your
Can you give me a definition of integrity?
integrity? Okay, one moment. So the last one to go on that one was, I think KJ first, and you have a definition of integrity. Do you have one that you would like to try to
It's
share?
about being forthcoming. You make a mistake, saying you made a mistake and owning up to it.
And Liz?
I agree, yeah, being transparent and honest and, it's deeper than that though, right? It's being friendly and, able to communicate well with others.
I think you want to know what my definition is.
Well, no,
when you-
this is a question night, and this is a question night. This is ask questions. We're not trying to have that back and forth. Any other questions? Can you come and please identify yourself?
Hi, McDonald. Bad news is I have two questions. Good news is they're really quick.
Okay, so,
Can you name the three structural
so,
documents?
oh, you have to let me know what
Sorry.
that,
Three structural documents of our town and whether or not you feel that they are functioning properly in our current time.
all right, that's an appropriate question. So I think Liz, you're up first. Are you familiar with the three documents, and you want to repeat it one more time, please?
Can you name the three structural documents of our town and whether or not you feel they're functioning properly in current time?
Okay, so three structural documents, what are
Is
they?
it the charter? I could be totally wrong. The comp plan
Mhm.
and, I don't know.
Zoning ordinance.
Okay, zoning. ordinance.
Yeah.
And whether they're functioning
Functioning
properly. I have looked a lot at the charter and I do think that that is because it's been updated and I know there was countless hours, days, weeks, however long it was,
A year and a
spent
half.
years, yeah, spent on that. What did I say the other one is? Comprehensive plan, I have not familiarized myself with quite yet, but I will. And what was the other one?
Ordinance.
Zoning ordinance.
Zoning ordinance, yeah, I do think that one is as well, yes.
All right, so that was, so
So I'm guessing I don't
KJ,
have to answer the first part.
So
You're right.
I don't know, it's like the memory test,
I won't
maybe,
say
no?
I don't.
Liz, you saved her on that one, so KJ, go for it.
I do think all three are, they're doing great. The zoning ordinance was just passed in effect last year, so there's some great new stuff in there. I like seeing where all the zoning ideas for different like residential or general purpose, easy to understand by look to see what's needed, what's allowed where. I just thought that was great. Do we need improvements? Of course, and that's why we're looking at them all the time. I think the comp plan is every 10 years. Hope that's not one of your questions because I'm not sure. But I think they're already starting to talk about looking at that because our town's changing. Everything inside and outside is changing. So hopefully we'll be addressing
For
that.
sure.
Yeah,
Thanks.
For
all right,
sure.
thank you.
And last question I have, actually, Michelle, the terms growth caps and building moratoriums, you kind of addressed this a little bit, but terms growth caps and building moratoriums have become political buzzwords in this election, replacing thorough research and the pursuit of a common good on concepts like a rate of growth ordinance. How willing are you guys to educate yourself on the shortcomings of our current zoning ordinance and familiarize yourself with Title 30A, which is the law that governs our zoning ordinance?
All right, so that would be KJ to start with. So do you understand the premise of the question? So basically, the understanding of like Rule 30A that governs us, which is this through the state and our current ordinances and the shape they're in comparison to the growth rate that is,
Yeah, because growth is such a
Right.
hot button topic.
it's like the biggest thing that
Familiarizing-
everyone's,
Yeah,
familiar side with the
familiar.
growth rate versus that and what
Right.
30A is now requiring us to do, no matter what someone's opinion may be of what size the town should stay. So
Like the
is,
LD 20.
yeah, that hot number that got, it's being
Yeah.
revised again this year, and it's made it very difficult, to do comp plan as well. So is that something you're willing to educate yourself on, to understand the differences of what, your point of view may be now, that may be different when you realize 30A and all these other things that are coming down on the town have to be addressed?
Well, not that I should be willing to, but I need to do this job. And it is on my list. I mean, the list is like
Yeah,
this and
yeah.
just this to get here. What was the rest of the question?
Well, I mean, I think in general, you have 30A is coming down, our ordinances, everything, we have a town manager form of government, which changes everything that we've done,
Yeah.
including our, all that stuff. But 30A that the state has for growth, again, growth is the biggest topic, I think, in our town that everyone is really sensitive about, because we love our town the way it is. But the state is also now implementing and demanding. Last year, 30 LD 1976 was super scary. Luckily, they did take that back and they're redoing it, but there are some things that are going to be brought to the town that the town has to do that might not be in the view of what people want. And what's your thought process on that and what you think is the best route?
Well, since I haven't looked at it, I will say that I haven't looked at it, and it's certainly necessary, whether I end up getting this position or not. It helps me understand. And I'm going to tell anybody out there on the planning board and board members, you're gonna be seeing a lot of me, so don't block me on the phone. Caps and moratoriums, I brought that up earlier, and I gotta tell you, it was again, I'm new. I will admit that I'm new. I gotta admit that I'm new, so that was my first thought. Caps and, yeah, no, we don't want full growth. It's just not, it's not the right answer. It has to be apparent, just like us, how we spend our money. We have to plan, we have to do comparisons. So I hope that answered. I hope that answered.
Yeah, it's a hard question because there's a lot of parts to it, but Liz, do you kind of, so basically, you have 38 from the state and different versions of LD 1976 will probably be coming out again this year as the comprehensive plan is trying to do the plan for the town, but we get thrown curveballs, which is why SMPDC is the blessing. So, the fact that we might have our views or our constituents might have views of how the town should be, but then you have to balance that with, what the state is requiring us to be, and it might not be the most popular thing, but how do you balance that? How do you make that work?
Yes, I am not familiar with that, but I am planning and will familiarize myself with it because I view the role as a select board member to be the person that's able to give that information to the public if they don't understand it. And maybe they do have a differing opinion, but sorry, that's not the law. Like, this is what it is. A lot of the disconnect comes from people not understanding what those things are. So I have to learn about it so that I can teach it.
Yeah. All right. Is there any other questions that anyone has this evening? Before we, come give it. No, is it no other questions tonight from anybody? No, that's it. All right, so I'm going to give you both a couple minutes to wrap up. We're going alphabetical order again, so Liz, go ahead and have your closing statement.
I'll keep it quick because I think everybody's tired. Thank you very much. Thank you, Michelle. I truly appreciate the time and dedication of the current and previous boards, as well as the town manager, for all the work that has brought us to where we are today. That said, I do believe there is more work to do. I believe our town can only grow stronger through broader participation, more voices, and more perspectives at the table. I'm committed to being a voice for what I feel is an underrepresented part of our community. Far too many residents are unaware of the critical conversations and decisions that affect their lives. It's essential that those voices are heard and that all members of the town feel informed and included.
Thank you so much. Thank you. KJ?
First, I want to thank everyone for letting me be here and to run for this position. I'm just really excited. The journey I shared earlier quickly, from growing up with a single mom where I learned the difference between want and need, and to serving our country for 27 years in and for the military. It's prepared me for this opportunity, I believe, in Lyman to serve Lyman. Throughout my career, I've developed skills I believe will be directly applicable to the challenges that our town faces. The skills to separate facts from information, make decisions based on evidence, not assumptions, identify clear objectives, and plot efficient paths forward with minimal resources, a skill essential for managing our town's budget responsibly. Working across various cultures and navigating complex issues, regulations have taught me the importance of listening and collaboration. I don't have all the answers. I may not know how to find them, but I know I can certainly ask and find someone who can help me with that. And the ability to bring people together to solve problems. The values that guided me through military service, integrity, service before self, and excellence, are the same values I will bring to the select board. I'm committed to stabilizing taxes, exploring new sustainable revenue options, and ensuring our town government operates efficiently and transparently. I chose Lyman as my home. This is my community too. I'm asking for the opportunity to give back through service once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And with that, Candidate Night 2025 is over. Thank you all for attending. It was amazing. My phone's been blowing up. Everyone's like, did it not go forward? So I'm sure Lindsay will get that. It's going to probably take a little while to process, and she'll have time tomorrow to upload the video for anyone that is asking about it.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you
very
so much.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Hey.
I thought he was gonna ask a question, like, you should have asked, like, what do you want for dinner?